A few guys you mentioned in that last segment I want to talk about in this segment, sort of like a this or that, because
Okay.
it really started because I was looking at the huge contract extension of Yordan Alvarez, who was a big name in the hobby. Actually, a guy who sort of fits into what we're talking about, a guy who got held back, even though his rookie season was 2019, and then gets held back for 2020. I believe it was I think I actually learned this from one of your videos. It was a decision by the Players Association, not the tops themselves. So his stuff got held back. And I think for a guy who's been a DH, I have always been surprised by how much love he gets in the hobby. It's slowed a little bit, but I think for a guy who doesn't play a position, it's pretty incredible, or doesn't regularly play a position at least. I think it's pretty incredible the love he gets compared to some of his teammates. So I thought we'd do a little this or that, compare some of these teammates of some of the best teams in baseball so far, starting with Yordan Alvarez. Gets that huge extension. I think it was 6 years, 115 million. Guy has been phenomenal. A incredible, looking like a possible generational power hitter right now for the Houston Astros. And over his last 12 games, he's hitting he's batting .409, a .490 on base percentage, a 1240 OPS. He's fourth in all of baseball in OPS, second in home runs. Just recently, a 2018 First Bowman Chrome base auto, BGS 9.5, sold on June 5th for about $440. And I show that in comparison to a guy that I have been big on for a while and think he's very undervalued. It's Kyle Tucker of his teammate of the Houston Astros. He started off 4 hits in his first 52 at bats. Not so good. So the numbers don't look all that great right now. But in the last 36 games, he's batting .307 with a 944 OPS and 7 home runs. And his 2015 Bowman Chrome base auto, First Bowman, I should mention, PSA 10, sold on June 6th for $350. So this or that. Are you going with Yordan with the power and all that comes with it for about a $440 price tag, or same card, Kyle Tucker, about $100 less? Who are you going with here?
So each have their own baggage, and they're both fantastic. So if you're an Astros fan or you're a collector of Tucker or Alvarez, please don't be offended. But each has their own baggage with what they bring to the table. Kyle Tucker, he's a great defender. Great defender. I think he's actually a relative positive, if not like the top 5 right fielders for defense. He is an elite hitter. I know his numbers don't always show it, but he has a really high OPS plus. He's able to get on base. He's able to do a lot of things that are really impressive. A career 130 OPS plus, for example. But he's older. I'm going to check, but he's in his age 25 season. You might say that's not that old, but when you consider he's only at 9 WAR, while Juan Soto's at age 23 with 20 WAR, it's just hard when trying to look for the long term. So Kyle Tucker, I think his ceiling is extremely high, especially once he figures out his offensive potential more and puts all the tools together. But the bad thing is, again, his age, if you're trying to buy sports cards. He has 2.3 WAR already this year, which is probably top 30 in the league. So that's great. Then you have Yordan Alvarez, who's also kind of older. But on top of that, with Yordan, he does not have any positional value whatsoever. He just doesn't. But Yordan has a higher hit tool than Kyle Tucker probably ever will. Because his ceiling, I don't think we've seen Yordan Alvarez's ceiling yet. I think we know where his floor is. He's going to be a good ball player no matter what offensively. But his ceiling could be amazing. Then you look at Ryan Howard, who is at first base, still a terrible defender, one of the worst first base defensive players all time. He had one of those all-time great seasons. I think that's what Alvarez can bring to the table. If I had to pick one, I probably would pick Kyle Tucker. Only reason is because I think his full tool set is what I personally like. And if he can hold that into his mid-30s, I think he'll have better overall numbers when it comes to WAR. And for that reason, I think we're leaning more towards sabermetrics, whether you like them or not. And I understand both arguments. So I think he'll be that guy. But I know you said earlier that it feels like Yordan Alvarez gets a lot of love. Lately, I feel like if you ever look at which player's underrated list, he's always up at the top. So at some point, he's going to be equally rated. And I think we're getting close to that point.
Yeah, we are getting very close to that. Yeah, I think initially he got a lot of love, but it has slowed a little bit. I think, to me, the thing I think about it, and I think it really comes down to as simple as I think you mentioned it. He doesn't play a position. He plays the DH spot, which maybe that changes now that DH is in both leagues. Maybe that stigma goes away. But as of right now, I'm not as sold on that, because for me, Yordan could have a career like a Nelson Cruz. Like if he has a Nelson Cruz type career,
that's a great career.
It's a fantastic career, but Nelson Cruz doesn't get any love in the hobby because, he's a DH. He's always been a DH. And you have to be basically David Ortiz to have that sort of love because he is sort of this transcendent figure who goes beyond baseball, with everything he kind of represents for 2004 and 2013 and everything he represents. You have to be that. Hero. Yeah, exactly. You have to be a face of the franchise, that sort of transcendent figure to really go from being a DH to you have some weight in the hobby. So yeah, I think I would lean towards Tucker. There's enough time there for him to sort of figure things out. I mean, he still is a great player. He had a phenomenal year last year, was one of the best players in all of baseball. So yeah, I think I think most of the hobby will probably follow suit. And hey, if one of these guys, if he has a great postseason run, you'll kind of see, I think, what you saw with Yordan last year, where his stuff went up in October after just a phenomenal postseason. And they don't have, and I mentioned it before all the show, they don't have that 2017 stink on them, which goes a long way.
Which is awesome. I'm glad they don't. But like you said, so Nelson Cruz, he also was hit with the PDP issue, back when he was at the Rangers. So that hurts his value a little bit. I'm looking at his Topps Chrome autograph, which is like his Bowman Chrome, because he didn't have one, I don't believe. And they've gone up more than I thought they were. I'm going to go to the sold listings real quick to see what the actual, $30, $30 to $40 right now.
Okay, well.
$54 for a refractor number to 500, but he has 42 career WAR already. So, and he's really aged well. But yes, that's one thing we need to realize. All these players we like and collect don't always age well, and they aren't going to be all-time greats because of that. So
yeah, exactly. You got to, and that is why the Sotos, the Trouts, these guys stand out. You can even, we'll see. It's still probably too early to tell with Soto, but I'd still put money on it that he's going to be an all-timer. But that's why these guys entered the upper echelon. Whereas, it's going to take a while for a Tucker or these other guys. Let's move on to one of the best teams in the National League, the New York Mets. A guy that was also a rookie pretty recently, and a guy that I always have kind of felt like things are like, when's it going to catch up? When's the hobby love going to catch up? And I think it finally has, and it's Pete Alonso of the New York Mets, 6th in the NL in OPS, 1st in home runs, or tied for 1st, 5th in slugging, 2016 first Bowman Chrome base auto, BGS 9.5, recently sold on June 5th for about $775 for him, versus his teammate, who is finally having the season they expected, Francisco Lindor. It has been kind of a roller coaster for him so far. The first from April 7th to April 24th, he batted .313, .563. Slugging percentage looked great. Then from April 25th to May 21st, batted .179, .263 slugging percentage. But since May 21st, he's right back at it. .340 batting average, and a .642 slugging percentage. A guy that I think, when before the hobby really exploded, was a highly sought after guy. Right now, actually, he's 9th in all of baseball, according to Fangraphs WAR at 2.3, 9 home runs at 2nd among all shortstops in baseball, and a first Bowman Chrome base auto BGS 9.5 recently sold for about $340 for Francisco Lindor. I don't have it right off the top of my head, but I feel like the age difference for these guys is not that far off. And considering the amount, the career that Lindor has already started to build up, and I think there is a legit, starting to build a Hall of Fame resume for Lindor, whereas Alonso is still feels early in his career, even though he is closer to, I think he's 27, 28. And I feel like he hasn't had enough time to build that career. Kind of reminds me of Aaron Judge, where Judge is this amazing power hitter, but his rookie year was 24, 25. So kind of gets off to a late start, for baseball players. And if you want to build that Hall of Fame career. So which guy would you go with here? Pete Alonso and his, I think, 162 game average, home runs 47, which is just mind blowing. Or Francisco Lindor, who I already said it. I think the guy, possible Hall of Fame resume that he's building right now.
This one's easier. I would go with Lindor 10 times out of 10 times. The reason I say that, he's already at 30 to 35 career WAR at age 28. And I know WAR's not everything. I'm only using it as a summarization of all stats, and I'll get to deeper stats in a second. But Pete Alonso's 27 with only 10 WAR. Pete Alonso's not going to make the Hall of Fame unless he turns into David Ortiz, like we discussed. He's awesome, and he's a great character, and he seems like a fantastic guy. Truly one of the great guys in baseball. Friendly, nice, down to earth. And not saying Lindor is a bad dude, but Lindor, his main thing is he transitioned from the Cleveland they're the Indians back then, the Guardians now, but he transitioned from them to the Mets. While Pete Alonso, he came up with the Mets. And plus, on top of that, Lindor has the big contract. So there's always going to be more pressure on Francisco Lindor as the guy coming in to be the guy amongst Mets fans. But the thing is, his ceiling, where his values are, if he can be the guy for the Mets and Mets fans, his cards have a lot of potential to go up. And only Lindor of those two has a chance at the Hall of Fame. I know we're looking long term. The average shortstop's like, 55 to 60 WAR. He's around 35. So he's more than halfway there technically, but he has to repeat some great seasons where he was top 5 in MVP voting. I don't know if he has that quite in him. This year he's showing it, but he is a very streaky hitter. And he's not just streaky for a 10-game stretch. He's streaky for half a season. He'll be the best player in baseball for half a season like he was at times from 2017 to 2019, and then he'll just not be good. Like, it's just interesting how he's always played. I also think Lindor is going to be benefited by banning of the shift that will happen next year because he'll be able to pull the ball a little bit more as a lefty. He'll get more base hits. His average will go up slightly and things like that. So I would go with Lindor 10 times out of 10 times just because I don't think Alonso's ceiling in regards to value in the hobby is very high.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned it. The age difference is so small that Lindor's only, a year older, and he's got so much more major league experience already than Pete Alonso. And I think, too, there is, something I've noticed is I feel like slugging first basemen don't, they do well, but they're never the guy who is the go-to player. It is these guys like a star shortstop, a star center fielder. It's these premium positions. Whereas, you could be 600 home run hitter at first base. And basically, unless you're Albert Pujols, there's times where before the season, before you started saying I'm going to retire, I thought some of his stuff was undervalued for the type of amazing career he has put together. Now things have started to catch up, but I think it just kind of goes to show, you expect power hitting first baseman, whereas you want the flash and pizzazz, and that's really, I think, what sets you apart in the hobby market. But Alonso having a great year, Lindor having a fantastic year. To me, those are probably the two Mets to keep an eye on as we go along. Let's move over to the West Coast.
One thing before we move on, one thing I'll say is there's, for some reason, a lot of value put on certain positions like you already hit on. A shortstop who plays great defense and is above league average offensively, that could be a Hall of Famer. Derek Jeter, he's a great offensive player, over 3,000 hits. His OPS plus, though, for his career, which is drugged down due to him aging like every other player, I believe is like 116 OPS plus. Paul Goldschmidt has a 141 OPS plus right now, but he's a first baseman. And he's not as flashy as a defensive position as Jeter's jump throw, and Lindor makes amazing defensive plays. It's just kind of how it goes. So I think anybody competing with that, like a great shortstop, is going to have a tough time.
Yeah, you have to be truly exceptional, I think, at first base as an offensive player to break through. But yeah, you're right. It's the thing that gets on SportsCenter. It's the thing everybody wants to see. The Jeter. I don't have to get all Yankee fans mad at me about Jeter instead defensive stuff and whatnot. But it did a lot of the heavy lifting for his legacy.
Let's say this: Derek Jeter deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely, he does.
100%. So I don't think that.
Oh no, the baseball has not had a breakthrough crossover star like Jeter since Jeter. So yes, absolutely, give the man his roses. Let's move over to the Los Angeles Dodgers. It's weird to say the Dodgers are quietly having another fantastic season because I just think we're all used to it by now. They have been doing this now for almost 20 years. Which is a weird thing to say, but is also true. They have, I want to say at least, probably the last 18 years have either been the best team in the National League West or the second best team in the National League West. And I would say majority of the time they've been the best team in the NL West, at least in the regular season.
The Giants fans just rolled their eyes at you. I hope you know.
Oh no. Yeah. Trust me. I said, in the regular season, 3 rings says otherwise. And I enjoyed all 3 of those very, very well. So, but yes, I'll give them a little bit of credit. Yeah. Regular season, whatever. But Mookie Betts, to me, another guy going into the season where I think, I don't want to say undervalued, but there still was a little part of me of man, he is had a start to his career almost similar to Mike Trout. And I feel like that's a crazy thing to say, but it wasn't that far off at a certain point where we were legitimately comparing those two guys. And since May 1st, he's got 13 home runs, a 343 batting average, 401 on base, 708 slugging percentage. He leads baseball in runs scored and F-WAR. I mean, I didn't even think of him as an MVP candidate till like the last week. I've been thinking Machado, Goldschmidt, and then in the American League, I've been thinking Judge. These are the guys who are having those defining seasons in baseball. And Mookie Betts is the guy leading them all and wins above replacement right now. It's incredible what he's done in Los Angeles, tied for first in home runs, a 2014 first Bowman Chrome base auto, BGS 9.5 recently sold for $1,150. I pit him. Price. I pit him against Freddie Freeman. We just talked about first baseman, and I think he's great, and I think he was undervalued at a time. His stuff's starting to go up a little bit, having a good year. He's in about the top 15 in almost every offensive category except home runs. I think he's on pace for 12 home runs at the moment, which would be even lower than his total in 2020. That'll probably come around. A 2009 first Bowman Chrome base auto PSA 10 sold on May 24th for $561. The price difference here, obviously, is basically the Betts is double. But you said it. I still feel like Betts is the better buy here.
So you're talking to so one thing I want to say, I'm a Rockies fan. So you say the Dodgers quietly went unnoticed as the best team in the National League West. It was not quiet for me. So
anyway. I'm a Giants fan, Giants fan here. So me neither. I am noticing it all too well.
It's been a living hell the last 10 years. But but no, honestly, Freddie Freeman, I need to be tactful in how I say this. He's very good, and I think he will probably be a Hall of Famer. But he only has 44.8 career WAR at age 32. John Olerud finished his career with 57 WAR as a first baseman, and he is not in the Hall of Fame. And he didn't really get real consideration. Freddie Freeman, on the other hand, has had better peak than John Olerud. So I want to say that outright. Paul Goldschmidt is a little bit older. He's 34, but he has less major league experience, has better numbers. No one cares. He has like 53 WAR, and he has more home runs and all these things. But as a first baseman, Freeman only has 275 home runs so far in his career. He has a 138 career OPS plus, which is great, at 38% better than league average. But again, Paul Goldschmidt is 144. So first baseman since 2011, that's when they technically both debuted. Paul Goldschmidt has been arguably the better offensive player. So Mookie Betts, though, he, on the other hand, has been able to do a lot of things that no one's ever been able to do, at least not for a long time. I'm biased. I love Mookie Betts, and that's a majority of my PC, him and Trout. But currently, he is, I believe, tied for second all-time in defensive WAR, according to Baseball Reference, at 12.1, behind Roberto Clemente at 12.2. And he's still playing elite Gold Glove defense. So he will be considered by defensive WAR as the best defensive right fielder all time when he finishes. But on top of that, he still has an OPS plus of around 135. So about the same offensive player as Freddie Freeman, but one of the best defensive right fielders ever. Not the best. I know there's other stats that would say he's not compared to Roberto Clemente and Jason Hayward and all these different players. But he's also able probably to end with 200 stolen bases at the end of his career. He's just all around amazing. And that's why you see his WAR totals be so high, because it's offensive runs, base running runs, defensive runs, all these different things that really make a good ball player. A run saved on defense is as good as a run knocked in on offense. A run created on the base paths is equal to a run on offense. And it's hard to really explain that when you see the eye test show somebody be a little bit better, but all around value is different than just one tool. So Mookie Betts, to me, I think he's 29 years old. He is on pace for probably 90 WAR. I think he is, in my eyes, I'd pick him over probably anybody not named. Well, it's hard with Acuna, Tatis, Soto, but Trout in that same era, same age group, I would pick Mike Trout than Mookie Betts from anybody over age 25.
Thanks so much for checking out this clip of Wax Packs and Warning Tracks, Mojobreak's Baseball Card Podcast. If you want to hear the entire episode, make sure to click that link down below in the description, or better yet, make sure to subscribe to the podcast. Just search Mojobreak Sports Card Show. That's Mojobreak Sports Card Show wherever you get podcasts, and you'll get new episodes of Wax Packs and Warning Tracks every Tuesday, plus new episodes of our flagship podcast, The Hype, every Thursday. And of course, make sure to subscribe to Mojobreak Media for more podcasts, more clips, and more original videos right here. Make sure to subscribe, make sure to like the videos, and we will see you next time.